It's a pretty big deal. Marijuana legalization has been a major issue since it first began to take off. Some people may not completely know how this plant can have many major medical benefits, as well as a beneficial economic boost. However, these people may not completely know about these benefits because they have this common idea that marijuana is just a drug that should be avoided because it can hurt people. And they're right. And they have a right to believe that. But it's at least best to understand some key facts behind marijuana. What must first be understood about the science of marijuana is that our human body has at least 2 cannabinoid receptors. These receptors are preferably called cannabinoid receptor 1 and 2. Number 1 is located in the brain, and number 2 is located in the immune system. When marijuana, or cannabis, is taken in however fashion, it reacts with these 2 receptors. Understandably, the cannabinoid receptor in the brain interferes with the trail of thought, and a cannabinoid receptor in the immune system interferes with immune functions. The cannabinoid receptors in the brain aren't necessarily made for just cannabis, but there are molecules in the brain that stimulate the cannabinoid receptors, and therefore stimulate the effects of marijuana. These molecules are called endocannabinoids. This is as simple as it can be explained, and it's the main scientific explanation for marijuana. But even with this explanation, it can be completely altered with added medical experimentation and chemical altering. And even with whatever change that is made, there is still going to be some altercations. People are different, and just like people are different, the human body may react differently to marijuana's effects. It is one of the key issues as to whether it should be legalized in the United States, because while some people may see marijuana as a medical drug, others will treat it like a gateway drug, or an anxiety attack waiting to happen. Some of these factors depend on something like how much or just how strong the marijuana is taken in. Marijuana is basically the only known illegal substance that is non-lethal, but some of the main side effects you'll more likely get from it are a dramatic spike in hunger. You will be more than confused, and this will lead to your mental state either being relaxed or paranoid. What can make cannabis critical to medical health is that its chemical properties and compounds can affect or tackle many of today's major health issues, such as depression, glaucoma, hepatitis C, and even cancer. These chemical properties and compounds, when treated correctly, interact with the illness in a positive and less painful manner, and can be used as a body relaxant or even possibly alter the effects of the illness completely. With this promise, marijuana can serve a major medical purpose. But nationwide, it is not technically legal, either medically or recreationally. As far as I know, when we think of recreational marijuana, we would usually think about the 60s, the Hippie Generation, the Age of Aquarius. This culture was a fundamental generation that captivated so many events. From the Beatles, to MLK, to Vietnam, to Apollo, so much can be said about the 1960s. But with no doubt, drugs and music were a critical influence to one of the most memorable time periods known. By this time, marijuana was one of the major common ideals used by the younger generation to oppress their critical older generation. The 60s paid homage to this counterculture with some of the biggest musical revolutions of our time, such as the critically acclaimed musical event, the Woodstock Music and Art Fair, and the revolution of the Beatles' album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Despite being driven by nothing more than drugs, it was still one of the most impactful revolutions of our time. Woodstock in particular was one event in the 60s that made evident that humanity could live together in absolute harmony. And marijuana was a leading influence. Though there was a government corruption and violent revolts against the Vietnam War, it was still a time where true peace was made. It was groovy. But, as with anything, there has to be order. There are also reasons why it's encouraged to legalize marijuana from an economic standpoint. America pays too much a price on prosecuting and busting marijuana dealers, and it factors into our current economic downfall. Legalizing can improve our economy not just by ending the cost of prosecution, but by means of revenuing, as the street value for marijuana nets a healthy profit for entrepreneurs. Marijuana is also a continuous supply and demand market, and the market would improve drastically upon our economy if legalized. But even still, legalizing has been an issue of controversy. Protest after protest, bill after bill, it has been a difficult road to see whether marijuana will ever be completely legalized for all of America. Everything I mentioned before factors into the government's opinion. Though there are benefits, the main issue is that many people will surely treat marijuana recreationally rather than medically. The most legalization has ever come to is strict medical usage to only a few states, such as Alaska, Montana, and Oregon. All these states are highly strict with marijuana, such as what medical condition to treat, the dosage, and whether the prescription should even enter the person's household. Will marijuana ever be legalized? Only time will tell. Though it has much potential, it also has an equal amount of obvious disadvantages, which makes it really difficult to consider legalizing nationally. We're only human, and we have our beliefs. But we should understand that something like marijuana isn't all bad just because it's against the law to possess. For all we know, it may possess numerous answers to numerous questions.
There must be some way out of here, said the joker to the thief. There's too much confusion, I can't get no relief. Businessmen, they drink my wine, plowmen dig my